You're listening to the Bulldog Hour, getting you inside the Wilson football program with weekly game previews, recaps, highlights, and interviews. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Rapoff.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Bulldog Hour. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and sitting here next to me is my co-host, Justin Rapoff.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Crazy to think where we're at in the schedule.
Yeah, it was a great Friday. I'm excited to be here on Sunday.
It was a great Friday.
Saturday can disappear, but Friday and Sunday, okay, all right. I'm down with Friday and Sunday.
Yeah, it was good.
It wasn't a perfect sports weekend, but it was a very strong sports weekend.
Yeah, it was really solid.
I mean,
really solid.
To be fair, anytime your team is in the World Series, you have to be happy about it, even if Game 2 didn't go as we had hoped.
Right, but a split in Houston, that was good.
I do want to thank one of our main anonymous donors who has been with us since pretty early on. I don't know if it was back in season 1, but it's been a while. They are a key contributor to the Bulldog Hour to help us out here, and they presented me with a rally towel from the playoffs this past week. And I was thinking I will definitely display that on the show, and then they said you have to display that on the show. Well, now that you said it, I definitely have to do it.
It's even red. That works.
Yeah, it works perfectly. So, but we're not here to talk about the Phillies. We're certainly not here to talk about the Astros. We are here to talk about the Wilson Bulldogs, who just wrapped up their regular season at a very respectable 8-2, courtesy of a season finale or regular season finale victory over Manheim Township, which feels really good to say.
Yeah, it was a big game. It was an exciting game, which no one is really surprised about that. You know, looking at the Township Wilson matchups over the last getting close to a decade now, like you start looking at those games and there's a lot of huge matchups, and this one wasn't any different. We've talked at length about how it's not, it wasn't for the section, but it was a big game nonetheless. And senior night for the Blue Streaks, and just the momentum going into it. One of the biggest games on the calendar for both teams, and so it was great to go to Neffsville and get that win, and hopefully use that as kind of like a springboard into the District 3 playoffs.
Yeah, I like that you pointed out that we won at Neffsville, because has been tough to do at times. It's not a place that anyone likes to go, but now Wilson hasn't lost at Manheim Township since that 2017 season, where Wilson actually lost there twice in the regular season. That snapped the LL section consecutive victory streak, and then once again a few weeks later in the playoffs. And there was a chance that we were going to have to suffer the same fate this year if we lost on Friday. I'm fairly certain, based on the way the power ratings came out and what I had predicted last week, that should Wilson have lost Friday, we would be going back there in 2 weeks. But avoided. Don't have to do that now. Just have to go to Harrisburg.
Right.
That's it.
All right. Yay.
There's no storylines or issues there.
Right.
So we'll get to that. We'll get to the Harrisburg Cougars, and that will be Wilson's opponent in the first round of the District 3 playoffs in 6A. The quarterfinals, though, if you recall, over the last month or so, we've been trying to spread the news, and I know there are already some people that are like, wait, the game's not this week? No, it is not this coming Friday or Saturday. Remember, all the teams in District 3 6A have a bye this week. And that is so that the district champion better syncs up with the state playoffs.
Right.
The past 2 years, I believe the District 3 6A champion may have had a bye the week after this game, or that's been that way. Maybe it wasn't the last 2 year cycle. Maybe it was the previous.
But
2 year
other
cycle.
teams have had byes, and
there was going to be a bye somewhere, and District 3 decided it best to delay the start of the playoffs in the largest classification and have everyone start the second weekend in November. So you are free to do what you want on November 4th or November 5th, that Friday, Saturday next week. No Wilson football. Not a lot of Berks football, actually, because while the Bulldogs are on a bye, a lot of the other Berks teams that qualify for the playoffs are also on a bye,
Right.
but that's because of the number of teams that enter the district brackets in 3, 4, or 5A.
Right. And in 5, I
Exeter,
think it's 12
Wyoming,
teams.
Twin Valley, all on a bye.
Right. And is Exeter the 2 seed?
I don't know. I didn't look outside of 6A, but I can pull it up right now. Why don't we do that?
Because I thought
Justin's
they were going
just
to be the
giving
one,
me
but then
homework,
I
so-
thought I saw a post that was mentioning someone else as a 1 seed, but I could have it mixed
Is there
up.
someone else undefeated? Because
I'm not sure.
it's
Let
let me just
but
pull it
then
up here.
when we look at some of the things here,
4, 5. Yeah. Oh, Solanco.
yes,
Right. I
right,
forgot about
right.
Solanco. Yes.
yeah,
So yeah, 10 and 0. Solanco has actually far and away better rating than Exeter does
right.
in terms of power rating.
But
And
look
that's
at-
all because of
It
the
is
opponent.
all
They're almost 14 points better, their opponent's winning power rating.
well, of the playoff teams in 5A, Exeter has the second worst opponent win percent, which again is not always your control.
Right,
you
no,
know,
it's out of the and obviously with Exeter's victory over Manheim Central, it proves that this isn't just a fluke. We also saw Exeter double up Hempfield, who's the number 1 seed
Right,
in
in
the
six-
6A
right. So,
bracket.
Exeter is the 2 seed. I would consider them the favorite.
I would consider
in
them the
5A.
favorite, yeah.
Right.
Honestly, knowing these teams in 5A, I feel like it might very well be Solanco Exeter though.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to sell Gettysburg short. I don't know too much about New Oxford.
Right.
I think Elizabethtown's pretty good this year, but I don't think they can match up with Exeter. And I believe they lost to Solanco already.
Right. Yes, they did.
So I definitely think this is a Exeter Solanco undefeated, which would be, I guess, 12-0 versus 12-0, I think, when it comes down
that
to
would
it.
be
So,
a huge game.
big game. But yeah, so you heard me say it. Hempfield is the number 1 in 6A. And I'll just pull it up. Might as well, since I have it up here right now. We'll dive right into that before. I mean, we're not going to preview these now, but we'll pull it up so that everyone can see. So Hempfield is the number 1. Again, they leapfrog Central York, even though they have one less win. Their opponent winning power points are 12 points higher than Central York's. Very, very high OWPW for Hempfield, which had them leapfrog Central York, who they lost to
Right.
this season. That is one of Hempfield's losses was to Central York.
Was it?
Yeah, I thought did they not play for Central York? They only play York William Penn.
I thought they lost to Cumberland Valley, or was that Township? I thought they lost to Cumberland Valley and Exeter.
Well, you know what? It's a good thing this website shows us that. So if I can find it, there we go. Yeah, 30-20.
Oh yeah.
Week
So
3.
it's one of those situations like a few years ago with Wilson and Township.
Yeah.
Where lost a head-to-head, but because of the power ranking.
Well, you know what I was just about to say,
Get
Justin.
to that.
Speaking of teams in front of teams that
Right.
lost.
Right.
So Hempfield's in front of Central York. Harrisburg beat Cumberland Valley.
Right.
No issue there. Cumberland Valley also beat Manheim Township. But yeah, Wilson is behind Manheim Township, 5-6. I
Yeah.
know people are upset about that, but like you can just look over here at the
Yeah.
big issue. Wilson
15
has
points lower.
the worst strength of schedule, essentially, opponent winning
of the
percentage of not only the playoff teams, but every single team in 6A except York Tech.
Yeah. Well, and we can attribute that
To
basically
massively
the two
down
schools.
years by Central Dauphin at
Right.
3-7, Governor Mifflin also I think 3-7,
Right.
and Martin Luther King,
Right.
who I think versus last year they actually won a few games this year,
Right.
But it's still that pulled us way down. So Roman Catholic going 8-2, sure that helped, but the
Right.
other 3 being 3-7 or worse,
Right. Even if they're 500 or so, we're probably not that low in the opponent. We're still not that high, but we're not that low. But those teams having losing records.
So
by
I
a couple
know
games is
here
not
at the end
helpful.
of the season, Central Dauphin was down to the lower end of their depth chart at quarterback, which contributed to the Rams losing to rival CD East in Week 9, in Game 9. And that essentially sealed the deal for Wilson to not be able to climb out of the 6th seed.
Right.
Wilson was going to be the 6th seed. Whether we beat Manheim Township or not, Wilson was going to be the 6th. Beating Manheim Township forced Manheim Township to fall and Harrisburg to rise. And as a result of our victory over Manheim Township, we will now be going to Harrisburg instead of back to Manheim Township in the first round.
That was huge for Manheim Township, though, because they lost a home game.
Yes.
On that loss. And Cumberland Valley gained a home game.
Yeah, right. So a lot happening, a lot going on. Pretty much went exactly as I expected. And my power ratings were almost identical to what's listed here. So, I mean, the teams were in this exact order, 1 to 8. I didn't put that out publicly.
Well, and how
obviously
about
Justin knew?
How about because of the switch, William Penn is going to play Central York back to back
Again, back to back week, and that game was much closer than I expected it to be.
And I had been saying that to some people who asked like what I thought was going to happen in that game, and I said, look, I think Central York's going to win, but if York can turn a game against anyone, I would include Wilson in it. Like if they can turn any game into a shootout, they have a shot. And they've got the weapons to turn games into shootouts. They struggle to stop people, which they couldn't stop Central York.
Well, I mean, we got Stoner and Jaheim White, the quarterback, running back duo, and they obviously have even more talent at wide receiver and along the offensive line. But like you said, they have struggled to stop people.
Right.
Actually, here, I'll pull up their scores as well.
You want to see some scoring.
So you can see, look at these wins here.
Right.
So in their losses to Woodland Hills and Hempfield, they scored 24 and 32. Then they rattled off 54, 54, 46, 66, 40, and 52 before scoring only 38 against Central York. But those scores, by and large, especially against the better teams, Woodland Hills, Hempfield, Carlisle making the playoffs, even Dallastown, they gave up 43 to Dallastown, 37 to Spring Grove, and then 43 in the loss to Central York. So a lot of talent there in that Central York William Penn game, which again, like Justin said, will be meeting for the second time in 3 weeks, and the only week they're not meeting is the bye week.
Right.
So it's interesting that we see we've seen that happen recently in the NFL, like in AFC or in divisional games. Like I remember one year, I think the Dolphins and Jets played twice in 3 weeks, and the only one in between was a bye. So it's a weird thing that happens, and it's happening again here. So District 3, 6A, I mean, all the districts are locked into who makes the playoffs. So Hempfield will host Carlisle, Central York will host William Penn, Harrisburg will host our Bulldogs, and Cumberland Valley will host Manheim Township. So another repeat matchup from this year, Cumberland Valley, Manheim Township. So interesting. Those are the 8 teams that made it. And honestly, I don't know. Much like last year, I feel like this is anyone's field.
Yeah.
Anyone can win this.
Right. I agree. It's tough. Harrisburg's 2 losses. One came to Manheim Township. And one came to State College, who finished off an undefeated
and is one of the best teams in the state.
And while part of the Mid-Penn and won the Mid-Penn.
Right.
They won their conference in the Mid-Penn, but they are not in District 3. But look for a state run from them. They usually get that tough WPIAL matchup.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, they look really good. So, like, you have a lot of stuff there, and like while Carlisle's at 6-4, they have had some close losses. They've had some, that Mid-Penn division, even while down, was still pretty tough this year.
Carlisle hung tough with York William Penn.
Right.
Just lost by a touchdown. Carlisle did not play well against Harrisburg.
Correct.
Or the one that stands out to me is that loss to Central Dauphin. That one just seems like out there. Now, maybe that was the beginning of the end for Central Dauphin because Central Dauphin finished poorly. But, Carlisle beat Cumberland Valley.
Right.
So, and they're on a 3-game winning streak. Entering the playoffs, Carlisle's on a 3-game winning streak.
And I feel like
they get to go to Hempfield.
Right.
So.
Like, Hempfield will be favored in that game, but like Carl, there are no teams here. Like some years, and less since they've gone to the higher classifications and had fewer teams and stuff like that. There's been less. But like I look at all 8 of those teams, there's not one I'd be like, oh, that's who I want to play. You know what I mean?
Right.
There are none of those in here. Where when you expand it a little bit, like when we look at 5A, and some of this is due to in 5A, there's 2 10-0 teams.
Right.
But like they're clear in a way, like 2 favorites, and in my mind, 1 strong favorite in 5A. 6A is a lot more open, I feel like. I look at the 12A and there's some schools, or the 12A.
Oh, boy.
It's just crazy. The 5A, those 12 teams, and there are teams on there that do not have a shot at winning the district title that made the playoffs.
No. So overall across districts, District 3, that is, single A, that should be Steel Highs to lose. They're going to smoke Fairfield.
Yes.
Semifinals, Anvil, Cleona, Camp Hill, and DeLone Catholic Trinity. Anvil Cleona has a very real chance to win the 2A title. I fully expect Wyomissing to win the title in AAA, and it'll go through them. They will most likely play. I mean, it'll be Hamburg or Upper Dauphin. It would be fun if it's Hamburg to have a Berks on Berks matchup between them, but they are probably on a collision course with Lancaster Catholic.
Yeah.
And that'll be interesting. Both those teams entering the championship at probably 11. I guess they'd have to be 11-0 at that point. In 4A, wow. Bishop McDevitt, Manheim Central, and Lampeter Strasburg are all going to be all grouped in there, and it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. But those are 3 heavyweights right there.
Well, are LS's 2 losses to Manheim Central and to Exeter?
Yes, they are, I believe. No,
they lost to
Lanco.
And Wyomissing is what I meant.
Yeah.
Sorry, I meant Wyomissing from the game from Saturday.
Right. So, and then 5A, again, I think it's probably going to be Solanco Exeter.
Yeah.
I think Exeter is going to win that game. But as we know from last year's 5A playoff results, anything can happen.
Right.
And the last thing I want to point out here, because I know we want to move on and recap Manheim Township, and we were not previewing the game against Harrisburg yet. We've got a week here to get ready for that. And we might have some special guests join us next week to preview the entire 6A District 3 playoff field. So we're not going to talk much about the Cougars tonight. We'll save that for next week. We're just going to recap.
Well, we won't have a game to recap next week.
We don't, exactly. We don't have a game to recap.
Dive into that preview a little bit more.
We're going to recap Manheim Township here shortly, and then just pretty much wrap up the show, maybe talk a little bit about how the season went as it stands. But just touching on the matchups coming up in the playoffs, the last thing I want to say about District 3 and the power ratings is Central Dolphins' opponent winning strength of schedule was an 80.80. No other team throughout all of District 3, any class, hit an OWPW of an 80.
Oh, and one of the teams that they played had to forfeit a game, not against them, but had actually won a game, I believe. I think.
Yeah.
That they had to retroactively forfeit. So, like, it would have been higher.
Right. So, Central Dauphin lost to Central York, number 2 seed in district playoffs. Lost to Wilson, number 6 seed in district playoffs. Lost to Coatesville, who had run the table, but had to forfeit a game and is still a force to be reckoned with down in District 1. They beat Chambersburg. They lost to State College and played them really tough.
Yeah.
But State College is the Mid-Penn champion, I think that's the Commonwealth Division, right?
I think it is.
And is undefeated and looking like a state contender. Then they whipped Carlisle, the 8 seed in the district playoffs. They lost to Cumberland Valley. They beat Altoona. They got hurt and things went haywire, and they lost to CD East and then lost to Harrisburg. So that schedule was brutal for them. Their non-league of Central York, Wilson, Coatesville, doing them any favors.
7 6A qualifiers there,
right?
Amongst
who finished teams. What? Well, if you take away the forfeit, those 3 teams finished 27-3. So 26-4 with the forfeit.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a tough year for Central Dauphin, and directly impacted what Wilson's power rating and seeding. So it's unfortunate, but that's the way it shakes out, and that's the system that is in place, and we've had it for a long time. and everyone knows the pros and cons of it. And
Well, right, it's benefited us some
right,
years.
we've come out on the top
it's
of
honestly
it before.
benefited us more often than it's hurt us. Like, this is the first time I really remember it hurting us.
I feel like I didn't verify this, but this has to be one of the lowest spots that Wilson started in a long time. Because I know back in 2017 we jumped up all the way to the 3.
I feel like one of those years in 4A where there were 16 teams. I thought we were pretty low.
We were 5 in 2011.
Okay.
Because that was the year that we had to go to Daniel Boone.
Okay.
And Cumberland Valley. You remember that one?
I do remember that one. Yes.
But I'm trying to remember where we were in 2018 when we had to go to Harrisburg. We weren't 8, right? That wasn't an 8-1 matchup, was it?
I don't remember.
Why not? You're supposed to know these things.
Yeah, see, I'm not you.
No, I forgot to check. But I mean, Wilson's starting pretty low, 6, but 8-2, and starting as the 6th seed. So, got a trip to Harrisburg on the docket. Be sure to travel, because 1, they have great food at the concession stands.
They do.
2, it's an incredible program that has unfortunately ended our season each of the last 4 years, directly or indirectly. So
cool.
Here's year 5, a chance number 5 to end that streak, coming up in 2 weeks. Also, they have a new turf, new track, like new stadium layout and design. Not the bleacher area. I don't think that was touched much, but
honestly didn't really need it. The bleachers,
no, really cool. I love that you walk out of the school, like it's right attached to the school.
It's a nice setup.
But they got a new scoreboard last year. They got a new track and new turf surface on the field, and I believe lights have been installed, though they haven't switched to playing on Friday nights yet. So not quite ready to roll with that. So the game at Harrisburg, in less than just under 2 weeks, will be Saturday afternoon. I believe the website lists it as 1 p.m. start, which in the past it started between 10 and 12. So I was a little surprised to see it as 1 o'clock, but it will be 1 o'clock on Saturday, November 12th. So again, look on the bright side. I'll be excited to take pictures in the sunlight. Hopefully it's not raining.
I was gonna say, I feel like you just wished a rainy afternoon on us.
Well, before we recap the Manheim Township game, let's take care of our housekeeping here and thank our sponsors, primarily my dad and May's Sandwich Shop, presenting the show, as always, since day 1 back in 2015. Appreciate the support from my dad. And also these other Season 8 sponsors, Mike Drago and MikeDragoSports.com, the Hop family, Andy Herr, and our 6 anonymous donors. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. And we will be having a show. You heard me mention that. It will be next Sunday, which I believe is November 6th at 8:30. Same time and place that you can find us always. Again, I think I'm going to try to get a guest or guests on here to preview the District 3 6A playoff field. If not, you can count on Justin and I to be here, but that will be in 1 week's time as we look ahead to the playoff matchups and all the teams that made it, and talk to people that have seen most of the teams that are in this field play at some point this year. If you're interested in help us out here, there's multiple ways you can do that: sponsorships, advertising, in-kind donations, and please be sure to visit the website. I did just recently add a section for my pictures that I've taken since 2011. I just added quick links to where they exist on Facebook or in Google Photos, so that people looking for photos from the past can quickly get to them rather than having to go to Facebook and check the albums, or the ones on Google. If you don't have it bookmarked, you'd have to go and find, social media posts that have the link. So now I have them all on BulldogHour.com. You can go to the pictures tab, and I went in the Wayback Machine, went back and started in 2011. I'm working my way up.
Black and white photos.
Yeah, right. Yeah, still film. I was still in the dark room. So you can go and check out. I think I have 2011 through maybe 2014 or 2015 done, but I'm periodically working on that. And now that our middle school football has wrapped, I'll have a little bit more time to do that. So you can definitely check that out. And I also put links to pictures on there for all the other pictures I've done for Wilson events. Girls soccer, field hockey, boys and girls lacrosse, boys and girls basketball, track and field, softball, and even the stuff I've done for Brandywine and Why I'm Missing. So all that is on BulldogHour.com. And finally, the last way you can help us out here is Justin's favorite thing to do.
Yeah, like and share. Spread the word. It's nice to hear from people when we're at the game. We heard some this week from some people. I think, wait, I recognize those voices.
Yeah, yes, right. Yeah.
But things like that. It's always fun for us to hear, and your feedback. If you like what you hear or watch, spread the word.
Yeah, we were talking to some of our show supporters, and then someone else was like, "Oh, I know who you are." Yeah, that's us. She said, "I like that." She said, "I recognize your voices." That was the best part of that, because clearly there's nothing going on here. So
100%.
Oh, that when you listen to yourself, you're like, "That's what I sound like."
Yes, all the time.
I mean,
I feel like I got teaching got me over a little bit of that, but also teaching over the last few years where we were doing a lot more recording of things and stuff.
Yes.
Just I'm kind of numb to that now.
You're over that, huh?
Oh yeah,
It's moved. You moved past it.
But I am fully aware of it because I have that thing. I do not sound like what I sound like in my head.
No. I've had to move past it mostly because I listen for so much editing that I have to listen to myself talk all the time. I'm just like, who's this joker? My dad just called. Did he call me or us?
Probably us.
Probably us. Yeah, obnoxious. So that is primary Bulldog Hour sponsor, Bill Mays, calling us obnoxious. I feel the love. So with that said, let's take a trip back to Friday night and go to Neffsville, where the Bulldogs traveled to take on Manheim Township. And I do have a game recap courtesy of Huddle. So let's see if I can get that to the screen properly so that you all can see that. Manheim Township did stream their game, which was nice because some of our road opponents this year did not do that, Reading and Penn Manor. So thank you to Manheim Township for doing that. So let's roll this. Let's check it out and see what happens. So Wilson, Manheim Township, evenly matched teams coming in. Yeah. Although, according to some chatter on the sidelines, not from Wilson people, they did not think it would be an evenly matched game, which
a weird statement.
Yeah, I was very caught off guard when I heard that, and I don't know for sure which way they were thinking the outcome was going to go, but I can make some assumptions. And if I'm making the correct assumptions, they were very surprised by the result.
Right.
So Wilson got things going and were able to move the ball on a couple of occasions, but came up with nothing with 2 red zone trips.
Right.
Penalties stalled the first one. After being in the red zone, Wilson had to punt. And then the next one, they got stopped on 4th and goal, just inches short of the goal line. So Manheim Township actually struck first, though. They scored on the first drive.
Yes.
Wilson kicked off. Manheim Township methodically drove down the field. Went up 7-0. Wilson came back and was able to what we thought was tie the game, but then a Township penalty on the kick allowed Wilson to go for 2, and Cam Jones busted in for 2 to make it 8-7, and that's where we'd stand at halftime.
Right. On that run we just saw from Cam, from my vantage point, I couldn't believe he stayed in bounds. I have no idea how close to the sideline he was, but
so there you go. That's all we're getting from that. So maybe I'll run that again.
It was crazy to me. Like, I was like, oh, this guy's going to at least force him out if Cam isn't able to cut back inside.
Ooh.
And the fact that he was able to stay in was crazy.
So you remind me, we just talked about this Friday night, the worst call I've ever seen.
Yes.
I saw one that may have topped it at the Y Missing game yesterday.
Oh, maybe it was the same guy.
I don't think it was.
Okay.
I don't think it was.
Okay.
But if you've watched this show, was that the Cedar Crest game? I think it was the Cedar Crest game.
It was the Cedar Crest game.
There was a great pass from Tommy to Cam on the sideline, Wilson sideline, where Cam came down with not 1 but 2 feet in bounds with the ball. Great pitch and catch. Awesome. Tosses the ball back into the field. Everyone's getting ready for the next play, and all of a sudden the ref comes out of nowhere and signals incomplete.
Right.
I was in awe, like jaw dropped to the ground because it was so clear that it was a catch that I could not believe he thought it was incomplete.
Right.
Yesterday at the Y Missing game, there was a run similar to what Cam has done a few times, and actually Eddie or Mackay or someone who has gotten to the sideline kind of tight-roped.
Yeah.
The thing is, they didn't tightrope because they were a full 6 inches from the sideline, and he goes another 15 yards, and they're blowing it dead. And I'm like, what are they blowing at? And Javen Williams is like, oh, no, come on, man. He wasn't out. And he wasn't out. Like, it wasn't even close because I got pictures of it.
Right.
I don't have a picture of Cam's catch that was ruled a no catch. I have pictures of, I don't remember which why missing running back it was. I have pictures of him being a good 6 inches from the sideline. That's how much grass you can see.
I just don't understand because, like, you're looking right down the sideline.
Well, you should be at least.
It's not like if you have to make that call from the middle of the field. That's
hard to see.
Near impossible call.
It was a Berks crew. There were 6 officials.
Right. So looking straight down the line, and I get when it's close. When it's close, it's tough. You know, like especially if you've got white cleats and stuff. Like it can be tough. If you're inches from the sideline, it should not be that tough.
Right. So speaking of, let's watch the highlights again since they moved really quickly here, only about a minute long.
Yeah,
but
so
a lot of big plays. And Justin was talking, they were coming from who else? Cam Jones.
Right.
33-yard run right here if you're watching us. Great play. Didn't get a flag for that late hit.
Right.
Should have, because he was a good 4 steps out of bounds.
This was a good one. You saw Tommy make the reads.
Yep.
They were dropped into good coverage, and so he took
Tommy
advantage of what they gave him. Right.
Got the touchdown, got the 2-point conversion. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it's just this play again.
Oh, it is? Okay, I was going to say, I was like, we're seeing this again. Yeah.
Right.
So it's Tommy's touchdown again, 2-point conversion by Cam, 8-7.
Right.
So now we're in the beginning of the third quarter, and this is a nice big run by Cam Jones.
Man, the line cleared out that side.
And he flipped field position. It was a huge run. Then
this run, though.
Later in the third quarter, game is tied 14-14. And this is where they were going to think,
I'm like,
that's me taking pictures there.
And I was like, he's not going to cut back inside this guy. But like you saw the guy standing on the sideline, he was in disbelief. I think he thought he was going to knock him out of bounds too, and he did not.
He didn't.
That was amazing.
Now, to be fair, I think it was Declan Clancy returned the favor after Cam got clipped by the ref on his. Now he made a bunch of people miss too.
They had a couple.
No disrespect to Clancy,
right?
But Cam got clipped by the ref.
They had a couple guys have like nice game. Like you could see the talent on Manheim Township, and we talked about it. Prior, like our guys they knew what they were in for. They had high.
Well.
Like they viewed Manheim Township highly,
right? Like they were viewing them as the best team they've played since Roman Catholic,
right? Yeah, and it was a big game, and there is a lot of talent there, and man, that quarterback played really well. Wilson made things happen, and to be honest, like we didn't get all the bounces. Two deflected
passes, yeah.
Right, 2 deflected passes, both for completions, and then you still like in a tight game to be able to still pull it out when little things like that matter so much is huge. So it's exciting to be able to see that and to be able to like stick with it, and like you had a couple things where you thought you were going to be here, and then next thing you know, Township's right back in it, and it was interesting. It was a really a lot of positives to see from the team from Friday night.
So here's my view of Cam's sidestepping tightrope down the sideline. I mean, honestly, this is essentially what the Y missing one was like too. Right. Like he was clearly not out. The one Cam was one of the Wilson returns touchdowns the other week was much closer than this one. It may have been Cam's, I don't recall. But yeah,
I think it was one of Eddie's.
It might have been Eddie's. So, but another electric game from Cam.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to expect it. He didn't have many opportunities 2 weeks ago against McCaskey to keep his streak alive of being the odd-numbered game player of the week.
Right.
And he could have had plenty even-number game player of the weeks. We didn't allow that just to make sure that many of the other contributors to the Wilson football team get their time in the spotlight. But I feel like it's unavoidable this week to not have Mr. Jones as the player of the game because of his performance, which was electric. And I mean, really, What else do you say? What do you have to say about Cam Jones? I know Mike Drago had an article today that said the Lancaster-Lebanon League doesn't award an overall group. It's all broken down by sections.
Right.
However, he said, how can Cam Jones not be the overall player of the year in the Lancaster-Lebanon League? And I'm sure there's plenty of, Berks and LL teams that would say, whoa, hold up. But he laid out a pretty good argument for why Cam should be the outstanding back of the year, essentially.
Right. Look at this game. Manheim Township did not kick it inside our 30-yard line on kickoffs when they have the ability to because of Cam Jones being back there. They did not punt it inbounds. Or if they did, it was like short and off to the side and, downed. Like, they were directional punting out of bounds. On defense, when Cam started to travel, that changed Manheim Township's passing game completely, right? And they basically didn't throw anymore to, and I forget the kid's name, but their receiver who had a really good start to the game and scored their first touchdown.
Kennel?
Yeah. And then on offense, the Wilson offense ran through Cam, literally.
Yeah.
Not just
we're about to talk about everything that
just absolutely insane. Yeah. So for him, it was just it was really good. It was really good.
Yeah, I mean, it was an epic performance. Another great one from Cam. He rushed 24 times for 248 yards. He had 2 rushing touchdowns, one of them 54 yards. You should have seen all of those on the huddle highlights that we just went through. And he contributed in the passing game too. Threw a touchdown to Nick Weitzel.
Yes.
On
who got to make up for his one that got called back a couple weeks ago.
Yep. So he's happy about that. We'll talk to him.
He was very happy about that.
But to wrap up talking about Cam in this game and this season that he's had, Mike Drago in his article mentions saying he's a do-it-all on offense athlete. He wasn't supposed to be the lead running back, but he's become that because of injuries. And he's close to being a 1,000-yard rusher now. And hopefully with just, I think, 65 yards against Harrisburg, he'll hit the 1,000-yard plateau with multiple games not getting that many carries.
Right.
So he does it as a running back. He's done it a bit as a receiver, though people thought it would be more as a receiver this year. He still has a touchdown reception. So he does it on offense. On defense, people don't even throw at him. No. And when they've thrown at him, it hasn't gone well.
No.
I wish we had charted every pass that has been attempted at Cam Jones and what the completion percentage is, because it can't be very much. Not many people have attacked him outside of Roman Catholic in week 1. And even then, I think they only completed 2 passes his way.
Right.
So he does it on defense. And then obviously special teams, kick returns, punt returns. He's only attempted, 6 returns, and he scored on 5 of them.
Right.
They're trying to get him the ball whatever way they can.
It's been weeks since he got a punt return.
Right. When was Penn Manor the last one?
I think so.
And that was game 7.
Right.
So we've run 3 games since then. It's amazing the season that he's had. So hopefully he can keep it going. And I know the team will be psyched to play the Cougars again, especially how they ended the season last year in the district championship game. So this one won't be for a trophy, but it will mean a lot to that locker room of Wilson players and coaches. So that's where we'll be going soon enough. But to finish up the Manheim Township game, we talked about Nick Weitzel receiving a touchdown pass from Cam Jones. Cam Jones wasn't the only one carrying the ball. Tommy Hunsiger had 14 carries for 64 yards in the touchdown that we saw multiple times as a result of the huddle film. Cleveland Harding had 4 rushes for 18 yards. And Eddie Case had 2 catches for 26 yards. Defensively speaking, it was a show by the linebackers this week. At the top, it was Jackson Wagner with 5 tackles and Nick Racona with 4.
And Jackson, it was a big game because a lot of times he was on that backside and they would hit that swing pass or something, and he was there to clean up and keep that from going for big yards a lot of times.
So yeah, big game from Jackson and from Nick, and then also from a group of defenders in Rafael Fernandez, Nathan Capitano, Ryan McMillan, and Landon Farrell. Each also had 4 tackles, and McMillan and Isaiah Cassius each had a half tackle for loss, which was a sack. So, overall a good performance by the defense. They settled in after getting blitzed a little bit in the early going. They had a tough time that first series, but were able to stamp down, and they gave up that one big run to Clancy that tied the game. But overall, a pretty solid job by the defense. And like the coaches said afterwards, that was the best quarterback they've faced to date this year, they believe.
Yeah, he's real good.
He was very good. Then they held him to under 200 yards passing. He had a lot of attempts too. Right. So a very good job by Coach Wolber's defense, and Coach Palm's offense put up 27 points.
Yeah, which is a lot against Manheim Township this year. They didn't give up a lot of points in many games.
So not only did Wilson score 4 times, but they rushed for 326 yards against Manheim Township. And it's been rough going. I believe someone had said entering game 10, Manheim Township had only surrendered 700 rushing yards in the first 9 weeks.
Right.
And Wilson gave almost half of that.
Increased that by 50% in 1 week. It's really hard.
So, excellent performance by the offensive line, 4 of which are back next year, right, which is always a good thing to point out to people. But yeah, it's getting a victory on the road at Nessville against a quality District 3 6A team is nothing to sneeze at. So excellent job done by the players and the coaching staff. And I would say relax and take some time, but we all know that that's not going to happen.
No.
The team will be busy at practice this week and next week leading up to the game against Harrisburg in the district quarterfinals a week from Saturday, November 12th, 1 o'clock in Harrisburg. Justin, anything else to talk about from this game?
No, I thought it was an awesome team effort. Guys really stepped up. And to see the team, like I said, when some bounces didn't go their way, they were able to. It didn't really faze them at all. Like, there was not even a lull really after some of those things. Like when they got called short on the QB sneak for the touchdown on 4th and goal, and then you have them backed up. And it's 3rd and long, and they fourth. No, they went for it on 3rd, but because they wouldn't have gone for it on 4th that deep. But for them to get the first down and kind of get the ball out, but then Wilson came up with a stop later in that drive. Just there were things. There was no oh man, hangover from the not getting the touchdown to then them getting out when we thought we had them pinned deep, and my thought at that time was, oh man, if we can force them to punt here from their end zone, what are they going to do? Will they still directionally punt it, to the 20-yard line, or will they let the kid just kick it and take their chances? I don't know what you do there, but I was really interested in finding out what they were going to do.
Alas, didn't happen.
But it didn't happen, right? But we got the stop later in that drive and got the ball back. There were a couple times where. Not that I would expect them to hang their heads, but you just see high school teams sometimes
get frustrated,
or down on themselves, and they didn't, and that is huge. That's really important because I know it gets preached all the time, and it's so cliche, which is why it's preached all the time, and you hear it so often. It is so important to move on from a play, good or bad, to the next play. You need to get that next play and win that play, and then win the next play and the next one. But you have to focus on that play, the one before, whether it went perfect or whether it went horribly wrong, has to be done. And I thought Wilson did a really good job of that on Friday night, and that helps contribute to the team, everyone doing their job and getting things done and getting that big win.
All right, so the last thing about the game against the Blue Streaks, we're going to listen to some players. We talked with 3 senior players following the game. It was Nick Ricona, Nick Weitzel, and Nate Capitano. All right, joining us post-game here after Wilson's victory over Manheim Township. Got 3 seniors with us. Guys, how's it feel to end the regular season? Your senior season on top of the Blue Streaks, 27-21.
It was great. It was amazing.
It was great. We have momentum now going into districts. It's awesome.
Now, we haven't gotten to talk to you guys in a bit. We haven't done interviews in a bit, but what was it like after the loss to Hempfield, in the locker room with your teammates? What did you do to keep the team focused or to refocus for the next few weeks?
I mean, that loss hurt. It hurt a lot. It hit our souls. So we just had to collect ourselves. Get our next goal.
Yeah, I think we're also just a tad bit more focused at practice. You know, everything we're doing, even little things, block, attack, we just focused a little bit more. So we got momentum going. And now, like I said, we're in districts now. We're going to keep the momentum going.
I know after that game, we were a lot more motivated to step up the game. I think we had 10 men in the next week. You can tell by the scores, we absolutely dominated them. So we really wanted to go back out there and get back pretty much.
Yeah, the 3 of you are big-time players on defense, but one of you got in the end zone tonight. Nick, how did that feel?
At first, I thought it was called back. So I was like,
did I.
really?
Again,
Right?
again.
Play. He got called back, and I was like, no way this just happened again. But they called dead ball, and I was like, wow. So you got playing defense a lot. I'm just like, it feels weird to touch.
You wanted
I don't
that.
know.
Well, it was a great play call. It had me confused for a bit, but then got you trotting in the end zone. Excellent. That was a huge play. But, I mean, defensively, guys, you know, we heard right at the end of the huddle there with Coach Doms talking about how you just saw the best quarterback that you might see this entire year. And he chipped away a little bit, but you guys held him under 200. What was the defensive game plan? What was Coach Wolver's message to you going into this game, knowing how dynamic he is?
We knew right off the bat they're a passing team. I think they said they were going to pass about 80% of the time. So right away we knew that we had to get our backers out to the outside, play the hitches, play the short game. DBs, we knew that we had to lock down the receivers just because they had a lot of taller guys. So we played a lot of make sure to pretty much lock down as much as possible.
And on the D-line side, we decided to get up the ball hard, hustle where the screens would go, when we pass, we don't hustle.
Yeah, like Captain said, big emphasis was trying to make contact with receivers, slow them down so that he can make a quick decision.
All right, guys. Well, we don't want to keep you from your late dinner and to get home and hopefully watch the Phillies in the comeback victory. So appreciate you guys taking a moment with us. Congratulations, 8-2 finish to your regular season, but I know there's big things on the horizon, and we'll get to talk to you hopefully in 2 weeks as you guys got to bye to take some time off and here maybe have a special breakfast next weekend. So congratulations, guys, again, and good luck.
Thank you.
All right, so we're thankful for those guys joining us after the game to talk about the victory over Manheim Township and talk a little bit, inside Wilson football of what was going on at practice and expectations and everything these last few weeks. We didn't talk to them after the McCaskey game. There's a lot going on for that, and we didn't want to waste time on, we don't always talk to the players, so it's nice when we get to.
Right.
If there's extenuating circumstances that don't allow us to. So it was nice to talk to the 3 of them.
Yeah, it was good to hear from them. As soon as they broke the huddle and we were talking who we're going to get and see Nick, he was really excited about the game. All the guys were. That was a big win, and to get through the 10 wins or the 10 games. Let's hope for 10 or more wins. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
But it's one of those big milestones down. It's crazy. But yeah, now I know we'll preview next time, but man, you shift gears. It's a whole different ball game now.
Yeah. Now it's literally win or go home. So This could be the end of your football season.
Right.
Is abrupt.
Right.
And you have to continue to win to keep playing, and that's where we're at. So. Thanks
someone
to those guys.
was asking me, because not all high school sports are like that, and it's the nature of the sport. Many of those sports you play multiple games a week and things like that. So I was like, well, where do they have to place in districts in order to make states?
Nope.
I was like, they have to win districts.
You have to win districts.
What? I'm like, yeah.
So
I was like, only the winner moves on, and they were like, whoa. I'm like, yeah, it's
not intentional.
different way.
Segue to something I wasn't even going to bring up because it's very tangentially related to Wilson, but I don't know if you follow on Twitter PA football history.
Yes, and I've seen you kind of going with
so
it.
he and I have got pretty close because we both love football history, Pennsylvania high school football history. Obviously, specifically me here, Wilson and Berks and LL, but definitely full on with the Bulldogs as I try to, archive and document as much of this as I can. So I've gotten close with the owner of that account, and he decided he wanted to do kind of like a what if type scenario of what if Pennsylvania high school football used the playoff function or format from other states around the nation. And is starting with Illinois, and it's really, really interesting. So I don't know if it would involve. I guess it would start immediately after week 10. Especially when your regular season's over, you're in the state playoffs. There's no districts. You just jump right in. And it's really interesting because they don't. So you have classifications in the regular season, but they get thrown out once you get to the playoffs, and they just take the top 30. What would it be? 32? Yeah, 32. I'm trying to think of what the numbers work out that every team plays. There's no bye. Okay. And it was in the 30s. So, yeah, I was like, is it 36? No, it's 32. Yep. So it would be 6 classifications of 32 teams. You might not play in 6A, but have to play in the 6A because it goes by enrollment of all those teams that make the playoffs. So, every team is ranked. Okay. In Pennsylvania, it would be like 1 to like almost 600. Right. Then they take 6 classifications would be what, 216 teams? Is that quick math? Is that 36 times 6? I think it's 216. So the top 216 teams make the playoffs. Then they break it each down equally by 6.
Right. So they take like the top 6th of the teams by enrollment would be in the top.
And that may be all 6A teams. It may be some 6 and some 5. It may be all of 6, all of 5, and a few 4. It just depends on what was the highest ranked team.
Wow.
It's really interesting. Obviously, this is just all for fun. It's all hypothetical. It's the Illinois-based system. But it's also not broken down by region. So you could have a team from Erie playing a team from Philadelphia.
Right. You could have like Roman Catholic play McDowell in the first.
Yep. Oh my! And that's how they do it in Illinois. And
do they play home games or do they play neutral site games?
They play home games. A guy chimed in that I believe is native to Pennsylvania, but may have gone to school out in Illinois.
Well,
and
what would be interesting?
Some of the games.
The Wellers. The Wellers lived in Illinois before they came back here. Wow.
Yeah, so we're just going to quickly go over, let me see if he has it on the website. We're just going to quickly go over some of the season stats. So I can quickly pull this up.
Well, that reminds me, very interesting. And I know it's completely different, and it is a whole different sport, so it's very different. But like how there are some states that throw out the classifications completely for like the state tournament, like Indiana with basketball. Don't know if they still do, but they used to. Like, it just everybody played everybody. Like, they took the top teams and like there you went. Like, and it's very different when you have basketball. Like a few years ago, I think it was Kennedy Catholic from up near Erie had like 4 Division I players and was a single A school. Like,
let's see. Here we go. Here's 6A. So let me pull this up, and I'll pull it up on the stream too, so everyone can see. So this is 6A, and this is how. No, I'm moving the wrong one. So State College would be the number 1 overall seed across the entire state, I believe.
Wow.
So there you have it. Now Wilson is in here. I feel like it's a fairly fair seating at number 13.
Right.
And as you might be able to see here, I can pull this over here. As you can see, the creator replied to me and said he's eagerly awaiting the episode of the Bulldog Hour where he breaks down Wilson versus CB South. So I guess this is his moment right here.
Looking at some of these games, it would be really interesting. Like Parkland Central York, that sounds like a fascinating matchup. I know Parkland's 6-4, but It's Parkland. You
yeah.
know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, so if Wilson gets by CB South, they'd have to play the winner of Central York Parkland. You move
Right.
on from that game and you play winner of Souderton Springford or North Allegheny Seneca Valley.
so you're playing North Allegheny
Most likely,
most
yeah.
of the time.
And it would be at North Allegheny, no matter, unless Central York won that
Which
area of the bracket.
I know. Have you ever been there? Have you ever been to North Allegheny?
No, I have not been to North Allegheny.
It's what you would think.
So
it's what you would expect.
The one thing I wanted to point out, though, here is if I just transferred over to the next part of the bracket, the other 16 team, the other half. I was scanning through this when I saw State College as the one. I was like, okay, well, here's the question: where's St. Joe's Prep? Oh, they would be in Class 5A for this playoff scenario. They wouldn't be in Class 6A.
Well, the enrollment isn't that big.
Exactly.
Wow.
So remember, this is throwing all the districts together.
Right.
So this is, I would think, probably close to, if not all 6A schools in here. Or it's every 6A school that made it in the rankings and then some 5A schools. And St. Joe's Prep's not part of it. They're in the 5A class for this. So right away, I was like, give it to me. I was like, show it.
Right.
Let's see what happens. How cool would it be? So yeah, but here, Cumberland Valley against McDowell, going to McDowell right there.
Right.
York, William Penn, Coatesville, very interesting
yes.
matchup. Very cool. Manheim Township, Hazleton.
Hazleton's another big school. People don't realize how big Hazleton school is. It's a big school.
So yeah, I just thought it was cool. The account,
Downtown East Freedom. That would be a big one.
The account is PA_FB_history on Twitter. Awesome stuff. And I just thought this was a cool thing to point out here, since we didn't have a game to
Imagine
preview.
the chaos of organizing that.
Hey, if Illinois can do it, Pennsylvania can do it.
Oh, yeah.
He also was quick to say, trust me, PIAA is never changing anything ever. So everything you want to be done or could hope to be done is not changing.
No.
So we have to resort to these fun what if scenarios. But I thought that was really cool.
Yeah,
that
that
really
is.
cool.
That's
So,
awesome.
all right. So last thing here before we go, just wanted to quickly go through the statistics from the season, the regular season, 10 weeks. You can see average game score 35-14 in favor of Wilson. So good offensive and defensive output for the Bulldogs this year. And just scrolling down through to see if anything jumps out. You can see Wilson's best defensive quarter was the first quarter, but our best offensive quarter was the second quarter. And obviously the second half is generally skewed because in a lot of the games, starters weren't in anymore. And some games, not even any of the second half.
Right.
So... yeah, I don't know, anything jump out to you, Justin? Third down percentage, 45% for Wilson, 50% on fourth down. 7 out of 14 is not too bad. Fourth down.
That's pretty good.
One thing I found interesting, Wilson gave up less than a sack per game, which is awesome.
That's really good.
But also sacked less than a sack per game.
Yeah.
Not as good. So that's one thing I think focus on improvement for these playoff games. Got to pressure the quarterback. Got to make sacks sacks on the quarterback. Make plays behind the line of scrimmage. 48 total touchdowns scored for Wilson, and I believe Cam Jones has accounted for more than half of them.
Wow.
I believe we'll find out shortly as we scroll through this. 33 of 38 on extra points, 4 of 7 on field goals, but no one saw any of the games. And I always wondered if there was any way of taking attendance at those games. It's got to be really, really tough to do. But yeah, so Cam Jones is at 900. So I was actually off. 965 rushing yards. He only needs 35. I had it flipped around. I thought he was at 935. He's at 965. So he only needs 35 rushing yards to go over 1,000. He has 19 rushing touchdowns in 10 games, so nearly 2 rushing touchdowns per game. We just saw him have his longest rushing touchdown, 54 yards, and he's averaging nearly 100 yards a game despite not really assuming that role from the start of the season, and also a few games just getting a handful of carries because they didn't need him to do so for too long in a few of those games. He also had 5 touchdowns on punt return, so right there we're at 24. So that's the break-even point, and we know that he had a receiving touchdown.
All right.
So yes, I believe Cam Jones is at 25 touchdowns, so 23 by everyone else on the team. So Cam Jones, clearly Wilson's MVP.
I know it's a little different counting, but he also has a passing touchdown.
Right. Yes. Yes. Yeah. So that one, I guess, he didn't score that touchdown, but he contributed to it. Right. So he has 25 of his own, and one more he had a hand in, right there. And honestly, he had an indirect hand in the punt return touchdowns. Or big plays on the punt returns when they kicked away from him,
Right.
and Eddie made them pay, or
Right.
Mackay on the
Right.
kickoff return. Everyone's like, "Well, don't kick it to Cam," and these other guys are like, "Well, guess
Okay.
what? Guess what?" All right, so Eddie was the leading receiver, 23 catches, 422 yards, 3 touchdowns from him. Obviously, Tommy was the leading passer. 64 of 118, 842 yards, and 9 touchdowns for Tommy Hunsaker. He also was the second leading rusher with 451 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns for the junior play caller. Nate Capitano led the way with interceptions. He had 3. And I believe those were in the first 3 weeks of the season.
Tommy,
too.
though, because in high school, sacks count against your rushes. Now, we saw he didn't get sacked very often.
He didn't have a lot of sacks against.
But, like, you know, that's from a quarterback who plays from the shotgun a lot, you know, like, if you do get sacked at all, like, you know, that's going to count against your rushing there. So to still be just under 5 yards a carry is impressive.
So if I would have scrolled down lower, it would have been done for us by Phil and Joe. 25 touchdowns for Cam Jones, 156 points.
We like to make things difficult.
Right, exactly. Totally. Yeah, so Tommy and Cam are the guys on offense. Let's see if I find my defensive. There's all-purpose yardage, and Cam has over 1,600 all-purpose yards, followed by Eddie and Tommy. And here we go, defense. So through the entire regular season, our top 2 guys both played in all 10 games. Nick Ricona finished on top with most tackles, 39.5 total. He had looks like second by half tackles for loss. Nick had 9, and Nick Weitzel had 9.5. Nick Weitzel also led in sacks with 3.5. Isaiah Cassius was next with 2.5. I mentioned Nate Capitano had 3 interceptions. Eddie had 1, and Ethan Addison had 1. Defensive pass breaks up, leading the way. Rafael Fernandez with 8. Cam Jones had 5, which is also fantastic because we talked about already how little people threw his way. He still managed to have the second most pass breakups on the team behind fellow cornerback Rafael Fernandez. A couple of fumble recoveries. We know the biggest one was Eddie Case's back at Penn Manor that he took back for a touchdown. Ryan McMillan led the way with 2 forced fumbles during the regular season. So overall, really strong numbers. And that about covers it.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride. You know, these 10 weeks. You know, and it's been good. And now you've got a chance to go out and try and battle for one of those goals that you guys set before the season.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, you've got your chance to play for a district championship ahead of you. You've got to win some games to get there. And if you want to, oh, gosh, we'll come back to that in a second.
I was going to say, commenting about it.
Because that needs to be brought up. But when we look at this, it's one of those where, you know, there's a lot in front of you, but you're going to have to beat good teams now. And that was one of the things we took away from Friday night is we beat a good team at that team's own place, which guess what? We're probably going to have to do on the
coming from behind. Now I know it
Right.
was just a touchdown early,
Right.
but still you had to, you took a punch to the face or to the gut quickly. How do you respond? And the team responded, which is great to see. So, yeah, I mean, they're going to have to go and beat Harrisburg if they want the season to continue. And then after that, you're looking at playing Central York or York William Penn in the next round. So, high-scoring offenses, very good teams. And we talked in the past, you know, when Wilson gets upset or beat and loses the year before, there's a revenge factor. Should you get past Harrisburg, which would be one of Wilson's revenge factors, you are going to play either Central York or York William Penn, who you ended their seasons last year.
Right.
So they're going to be the ones saying, not again, not 2 years in a row.
Yep.
So yeah, it'll be interesting. But that pretty much wraps it up. I do want to just quickly, if you follow Pennsylvania high school football, you know the dominance of a team like Aliquippa. Steve O'Neill, the Why Missing offensive line coach, chiming in to say, if Pennsylvania used that Illinois bracket, Aliquippa would be in the single A bracket. That wouldn't be pretty for anyone. And Aliquippa in that lowest classification,
that would
come playoff time, that would be rough. That would be rough for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But interesting concept.
Yes, it would.
And PA football history said he's going to do, I think, a handful of these.
That'd be cool.
Someone also asked him to simulate different seasons. I was like, you might as well just suck it up and do every season, because that's what's going to happen. Because I want to know how things would have looked maybe, in 1999.
I like the comment of, I'm just going to preemptively put out there, why do you hate my school?
Exactly, yeah, because no one is ever happy with any of these things, even though they're hypothetical,
Right.
and very, very subjective with trying to utilize objective statistics, which we know computers don't win football games.
What?
So yeah, I know. Surprises me too.
But
But
when the computers fail, we can always fall back on the transitive property.
I would just look at the power ratings, how much they know about football.
Right, exactly.
So, all right. Well, I think that's it for us this week. We will be back in 1 week's time to preview the entire District 3 6A playoff field, especially Wilson's game against Harrisburg. So if Justin's got nothing else for us.
Just real quick, congratulations to Wilson Boys Water Polo. Won a state title yesterday.
Yes,
so that was
congratulations.
Awesome win for them.
To the boys, and I know field hockey is still playing. They have a game Wednesday.
I don't know when the next game is. Wednesday would make sense because I feel like this was a quarterfinal.
And so this would be, is this the semis
and
then?
I feel it would be a semi.
And the championship Saturday.
That would make sense, yes.
And also girls volleyball, still very
Yes.
much alive. Actually, they just technically seed-wise upset, I think, Elizabethtown.
Awesome.
The 3 seed. So Wilson girls are the 6 seed, and their season will continue. It might actually be tomorrow.
Hey,
I
keep
don't
it
know
going.
off the top of my head, but check wilsonsdathletics.org for the schedules for girls, or for the field hockey team, and girls volleyball still very much alive for this fall sports season. And guess what? 2 weeks from Friday, winter sports kickoff, November 18th. So right around the corner. As we have people asking for Bulldog Hour basketball edition.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So, well, hopefully
No
we have
promises.
Hopefully we have to delay that for a while yet. But
Yes, right. Yeah.
but we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's not going to be weekly. I can guarantee you that. No way. Not after the way August through November goes. So, but thank you again, everyone, for tuning in, for supporting the show, and we'll see you back here in 1 week. So until next time, for Justin Raffoff, I'm Joe Mays. Remember,
Go
Bulldogs.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Bulldog Hour. Want more Wilson football? Follow the show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud, or visit www.bulldoghour.com. The Bulldog Hour is a featured program on jmnjrradio.com.